Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Wednesday, June 15th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you could join us in a moment of silence to reflect on our duties as servants of the town and for the safety and safe return of our soldiers, both overseas and in the United States, and for the victims of the, unfortunately, various tragedies that we've had, seems like in one area in the country recently. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General laws, I have to announce that this meeting is being recorded by East Long Meadow Cable Access and also by the Selectmen's office, and I have to ask if anyone else is recording the meeting.
Chris Cottrell with a reminder.
Thanks, Chris. All right, we have one appointment today. We have a police sergeant candidate interview, and it's Mike Sousa. So Mike, please come up.
No way.
How are you today?
I am well. How are you?
Good, thanks. I know you've seen this movie, that's how the impression goes. But what we're going to do is, we have, I believe, 10 questions. And what we're going to do is start with the chief and work our way around 2.5 times and ask you the questions. And obviously answer the questions to the best of your ability. And then obviously we'll go from there. All right. Chief, if you're ready.
I am ready. Officer Sousa, what leadership traits and qualities do you possess? And what strengths would you bring to your new position as sergeant?
Well, I've had a lot of experience in leadership roles. I know this has been over this a couple times, but I was in the military for 10 years, and 7 of them as a NCO, a sergeant, and subsequently a staff sergeant, where I was in charge of anywhere from 3 to 20 people. Important traits are building teamwork. It's important in leadership not to just tell people what to do, but to get them to want to do it for themselves. Because if you're just ordering people around, then it can become a corrosive environment. Whereas if you can earn their respect and get them to want to accomplish the tasks that you've set on their own, then you have a more cohesive unit.
And what strength would you bring to your new position as sergeant?
The years of experience that I've had, where I've got to not only practice but observe a lot of different people in leadership positions, and take the good traits that they've had and learn from the negative ones. So just that experience in general will give me, I think, a leg up.
Okay, thank you.
Officer Sousa, can you tell us why we should pick you for promotion to the rank of sergeant?
Well, I've been here for just about 5 years. As I just stated previously, I've done this for a while in various capacities, not specifically in East Long Meadow, but other jobs where I've been in leadership roles. I've had to be in charge of people. I've done evaluations. I've conducted training. So with all those things, having that experience over a long period of time, I think it makes me pretty well qualified to have this position.
Thank you.
Officer Sousa, excuse me. Give us an example of an interpersonal conflict you've experienced with a fellow officer. What was the nature of the disagreement, and how did you resolve the tension?
Here I really haven't run into too many problems with anybody. People seem to get along pretty well. It's a small department, and there's always maybe a small personality conflict, but I try to stay out of that stuff. I have had instances in other jobs, specifically in the military, where I've had really been butting heads with someone that was in charge of me. And that something like that, I think you have to address it with them specifically, away from other people, work out what the issues are before it becomes something bigger than it needs to be. And you always have to maintain a level of professionalism in that circumstance.
If I may ask, follow up on that, how would you resolve that in the military, the conflict you had there? one you mentioned?
Well, it was in Iraq, and it was my team sergeant. So I was a sergeant at the time. It was a staff sergeant, and he often would correct people that he felt did something wrong in front of a large body of people, embarrassing them, calling them out for things, which I don't find to be very effective. It just it would make that situation worse. And I told him many times that we had issues with it. And so eventually we went offline. So we went off to the side and had a sit down about it and explained the issues. And it seemed to mediate the problem, at least enough to where the team wasn't, going at each other and not wanting to listen to him. So it helped keep his leadership role intact, and it helped keep morale up a little bit.
So you think your input, intervening in that situation helped
Yes,
get the
and
team back on course?
yep. And I thought it was important to do that not in front of other people, but to do it privately, especially because he was in a leadership role.
Okay, almost, thank you.
Thanks.
Mike, tell us what experience you had functioning in a leadership role, which you answered some of that in the last
Yep.
question, and describe your current philosophy and approach to leadership.
So in the past, I was in Iraq. I was a sergeant. So I was in charge of 3 other people, and our job was to mitigate civilian interference with military operations. So we went around and basically coordinated with the locals to keep them off the battlefield as best we could, so we'd mitigate civilian casualties. So in that capacity, we had a lot of responsibility. We operated on a battalion level, so the area that we were operating in was I don't know, probably about the size of Hampden County, maybe a little bit larger. And what was the second part of your question?
And describe your current philosophy and approach to leadership.
Oh, okay. So I think like I said earlier, it's important as a leader to build respect, to build teamwork in a shift, to get people involved, because if they don't feel that they're contributing into whatever the goals you're setting forth are, then they're not going to be productive. So to make a team or a shift or whatever as productive as you can, everyone needs to feel included. Everyone needs to have a purpose. Otherwise, you're just going to lose efficiency. You're going to lose morale. So to keep all those things up, people need to feel that they are taking part in whatever the goals happen to be.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Officer Sousa, tell us about the ways your role will change as you move from a patrol officer to a supervising sergeant with this department.
So obviously, I would move from patrolling to commanding a shift, and to that point, being probably one of the younger sergeant, I would probably lean a little bit on some of the older patrolmen for some of their experience. Not to say that they obviously wouldn't be able to necessarily tell me what to do or anything like that, but it's important to include the experience that they have in my decision making, but also to maintain control of what's going on, to supervise whatever investigations or incidents or anything like that occurs while I'm on duty.
Thank you.
Just to say, yeah, I like what you said about you'll lean toward, some of the other sergeants because it's a learning process,
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can't go into a position thinking that you know everything,
Yeah.
and I've been in charge of people that were twice my age. I was, when I was in Afghanistan, I was a staff sergeant. I ended up being a team leader, which was the position normally held by a major. And I was in charge of people that were 42 years old with doctorates, and it's just, they're smarter than me with a lot of things. But it's my job to bring everyone together and make sure whatever needs to get done is being accomplished and keep everybody focused. And you don't need to be the smartest person in the room to be able to do that. You just need to be an effective leader and coordinator.
So why do you want to become a sergeant with the police department?
Well, I think it goes with the career progression I would like to go with. moving up from patrolman to sergeant is, added responsibility, which I like. I like to challenge myself, and I think it's the best way to do it here. In the future, if there happens to be additional positions, a lieutenant or anything like that, then that might be something I'd seek out in the future, depending on how I like being, how the sergeant position is working out if I get that.
Thank you.
Mike, tell us about a time when you demonstrated that you have leadership ability and skill in your current position as patrolman.
So the time where you could demonstrate leadership the most, I think, as a patrolman is if you're the first person on a scene that it's your scene until you're relieved of it. So there was a couple I think it was 2 years ago, there was a car accident where a car hit a pedestrian on Maple Street. It was during the carnival, and there just didn't happen to be a sergeant in the area at the time. So because I was the first one there, then we had a lot of detail officers that were working the carnival at the time. But because you're the first one there, you're in charge of it. You're coordinating with the other patrolmen with what you need, who you need to interview, get witness statements, get the ambulance there, all those things, until a supervisor relieves you. So in that capacity, you do have supervisory opportunities, depending on the situation.
Thanks.
Okay, Mike, if you were told you could make one change in the department, in any change you wanted, what would it be and why?
Well, I think now actually the department's going the right direction. I know that we're working on redoing our policy and procedure, which I think is huge and important. Getting an inventory policy, which is hugely important. I think adding another detective to the detective bureau would be really beneficial to not only the current singular detective that we have now to lighten his load, but also to the patrol staff for some additional resources with investigations, because a lot of time when you're on patrol and we're at shift minimums, which is often now, that if a break-in or something like that occurs that needs to be investigated, it's hard to find the time during the shift to continue that without having to field other calls for service that are coming in. So there are a few things. I think an afternoon a second shift detective would be hugely beneficial though.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Mr. Seuss, explain how you would handle an employee who is not working up to its acceptable performance.
So if you have a employee, firstly, I think something like this needs to be addressed in policies, which is important. Personally, I think it's important to have a record of counselings. So, if something's an issue at first, you maybe verbally counsel the employee in private about what the deficiencies are, how to fix them, what to do better, things like that. If it starts reoccurring, then it becomes a written counseling, where you write down, you read it over with them. Hey, this is what you're doing wrong. This is what you need to fix. This is how I'm going to help you fix it. And then if it occurs again, I think it would need to get forwarded up, because as a sergeant, you only have so much disciplinary power. But I think it's important to document if you have something like that, so it doesn't just one day, hey, this guy's been a continuing problem, we need to do something about him. Whereas if you document it all the way through, you can say, hey, this is what's going on, I did this is what's going on, we talked it over this time, and now it's continuing, and he's not correcting whatever the problem is.
Good, Jeff?
Back to me again?
No, I was just making sure you,
Oh, I'm good with that.
all right. So, Mike, this is a scenario question, so it's a little bit longer, but
Okay.
if you need me to reread it or whatever, just let me
Sure.
know. The command staff has put a new policy in place. They know it to be an unpopular directive, and you personally have serious questions about the new guideline. Your job however, is to train your officers about about the new directive and motivate them to abide by the new regulation. How do you manage your own personal feelings and objections regarding the new policy? That's the first part. what personal reactions would you share with your patrol staff, and which ones do you keep private and why?
Well, I think firstly it would be important to, speak with the command staff to understand why, if this policy, and if I have personal reservations, why this policy is being implemented and for what reasons. And to take the reasons that, that you're given and you forward that on to your patrol, and you got to get them to buy into the positive aspects of the policy and why it's important, why it's beneficial to them, why it's beneficial to the department. If I had negative reservations about it, I don't think that is something I would necessarily share with patrol staff. It might be something I share with other sergeants, other supervisors to discuss it, but as far as the patrol staff, I don't think sharing my personal reservations or negative feelings about the policy would be beneficial to the department in general. So that might be something that the supervisors might need to get together about and discuss with the command staff. Maybe adjust the policy if needed or if possible. But yeah, I think that's probably the way to go about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's it.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, you guys want a minute to review your notes, or any questions or comments, or?
I think you did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
I just want to finish making one quick
Yeah,
note.
let me know when you're all set.
I'm good.
All right, everybody else set? Any, I was just gonna say that obviously, just as last time, you did an outstanding job. And we're a fortunate town to have you on our force. So, having said that, unless there's any comments from anyone else, I would,
You got any comments, Jeff?
Nothing disciplinary that would work against him
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
Since the last time we interviewed him?
Since the last time, yes.
Yep.
All right, great. I'd like to propose a motion to, I guess, promote Officer Michael Souza to Sergeant.
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Congratulations. Thank you. Good luck and be safe out there.
Congratulations. Enjoy your vacation. Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a long night.
Oh, can I make one thing about the effectiveness, when it's effective, please?
Sure.
I'd like to see that it's made effective, that's my bad on that, Sunday, June 26th,
Okay,
for a time frame. Take effect that day.
that's not a problem.
Is that,
It's not a problem. I suppose we can make another motion to, I'd like to propose a motion to begin Sergeant Sousa's duties as sergeant effective June 26th.
So moved?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anything else?
no, I think.
The proposed motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not giving